Hey, P here from Crunch Time Coaching. Today we're going to be looking at Novak Djokovic Forehand. We're going to go over 5 fundamentals that you can copy to improve your forehand and modernize it a little bit. So number 1, the first thing we're going to look at is something I call the open option forehand. So we're going to see Novak Djokovic getting ready to set up here, and just going to pause the video as he sets up. Look at his hitting hand here and his dominant leg, okay? So that's going to be the same side that you're going to be hitting on. You want to set up that back leg in an open option. What does that mean? That gives you the option to either hit a closed stance forehand or to hit semi-open or to hit full open. So we see Novak right here. He's set up and he's in a little bit more of a closed position. We'd call this a semi-open stance forehand. He's not quite stepping into the ball. Okay, let's take a look at his next forehand that he's going to hit, where now he's on the run. So notice he's on the run, but it's always going to be the same setup with the footwork. He's going to set up on that outside leg. That is the dominant side that's holding the racket. You want to make sure that you can time your footwork steps so you can always set up in the open option so you have more flexibility into how you hit the ball. So right here, he clearly looks like he can hit in an open stance as he's getting ready to hit. But you can see what he does here is he closes it and hits in more of a traditional step in to the forehand, closed stance forehand. And that leads me to my next point. Fundamental number 2 is to have flexibility in your footwork. There's lots of coaches who preach you should hit everything closed. Then there's other coaches who say, no, the game's too fast, it's modern, you should hit everything open. The key is to have the open option forehand and to have flexibility in your footwork to where you can hit open, semi-open, full open, stepping in to with a closed stance forehand. Think of your footwork as dance moves. If you just have one dance move, you're going to be limited. And if we watch Novak, he has so many different ways he sets up to hit. If we watch Novak, he always sets up on the open option forehand, but he's got a lot of options with how he hits. Here we can see he's pretty much in a full open stance. So think about that when you're going to play tennis. You should have multiple options with your forehand. Just don't think of hitting one way. As long as you set up in the open option forehand, the game will kind of come and flow to you, because sometimes you're going to need to run out to the side and get the ball hit full open. Other times you're going to be able to move in and step in. Sometimes you're going to have to dance away from the shot, kind of like Novak is here. So you want options and flexibility with your footwork. Just don't think about open and closed. Okay, so forehand fundamental number 3, I call this the hold. Look at Novak Djokovic, how long he is holding on to the tennis racket with both hands, okay? And we're going to talk about why is this important. You probably heard about the unit turn, but what are all the things going on here? As he's holding the racket, this allows him to, A, release tension here in his hand, have a loose grip. But you can basically make that turn and hold on to the racket with the top hand and relaxing your bottom hand. Okay, so that can help you stay more relaxed. By also holding on the racket, this turns the racket. Look how his racket face is up and forward. So this is going to create that momentum into the ball when he starts to drop the racket down and then through. So he can really create a nice runway of racket head speed. That's another great thing about holding onto the racket. And then finally is that coil. Look how he's still holding on the racket, and now his arm is actually pushing himself backwards. That's going to help for a nice, natural, strong shoulder turn, which is going to load up the hips. It's going to load up the core, and it's going to load up the shoulder, and then it all unravels into the ball. So we can see that here as he's hitting this forehand. Now it just all unleashes into the shot. Okay, so forehand fundamental number 4 is called palm down. Look how the racket face is towards the ground. Why? Because his hand is facing the ground. Also, his grip being in a strong semi-western to full western grip, think it's kind of in between the two, is going to allow him to create massive topspin and not to do something I call a tweak. A tweak is when your racket face opens up at contact and the ball flies on you. But what we're going to see right here is how long that palm stays facing towards the ground. So right now we can see the palm towards the ground. And now as he's coming here, he's hitting it, and bam, the racket face never opens up as he goes through, and then he turns over right away. So notice how after that ball is gone, again, the palm, the racket face is facing towards the ground. Okay, people didn't used to do this back in the 70s and 80s. There was a lot of mixed, kind of different forehands, and this wouldn't be seen too often. Maybe by somebody like a Bjorn Borg you would see this. But now everybody kind of does the same thing because it allows you to do what? It allows you to really just unleash a ton of racket head speed, know that you're going to put a lot of rotation on the ball, and that the ball is going to go in for you. So, like, why wouldn't everybody do that, right? So here it is again. We can see that palm towards the ground. He's getting under that ball. You can see the racket face, even before he's hitting, still looks like it's slightly facing towards the ground. Then when he goes to hit, even a little bit, it's kind of even parallel to the ground, maybe even a little bit leading forward. And then right after that, as he's going through it, again, we start to see the racket face towards the ground. So think about that when you're going to hit your forehand. You can easily accomplish this in an Eastern, semi-Western, or full Western grip. It's a little harder to do if you happen to still have a continental forehand grip. And finally, forehand fundamental number 5 is flexibility in your follow-throughs. Okay? Again, so many coaches teach you to follow through one way. But what you want to be able to do is master different follow-through styles and be able to repeat them over and over again. Here he is doing a buggy whip forehand. Okay? Why would you do that? Sometimes to absorb pace, to lift the ball higher, to add a little extra spin. So that's kind of something we see Rafa do a lot. Then as we see him hit this forehand, again, he hits another buggy whip forehand. So his opponent is really kind of pushing him around, his practice partner. Now this looks a little easier for him. So now watch this. This is more of that traditional follow through to where he's catching the racket a little bit. See over there, he's got the racket in the other side, in his hand on the other side. That's more something we learned on our first tennis lesson. So we went from having an extreme kind of buggy whip forehand to what a lot of people are taught on their first lesson. Here he is again, just doing all kinds of buggy whip forehands right here in this little patch of examples. And let's take a look at the next forehand. What does he choose to do? Okay, this one looks a little easier. So I doubt he's going to do a buggy whip here. He's going to step into this, and he's going to finish over his head again. Oh my gosh, he's on a buggy whip spree right here. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Now, look where that's the complete opposite. Now he falls through, down. I call this a pocket-to-pocket or windshield wiper forehand, where he's hitting the ball, and he's coming up and then relaxing down. So the point I'm trying to make is that depending on the ball you're going to get, that's what's going to influence your follow-through, what you want to do with the ball. If you want to put more spin on it, you might do a windshield wiper or a buggy whip shot, especially if you're a little more on defense. You might finish over your head. Here he's finishing across his shoulder. So we've watched a bunch of different shots here from Novak, and we're seeing that the follow-through varies from shot to shot depending on the ball he's receiving from his opponent and the ball that he wants to send back. Again, this looks a little more traditional, and he's finishing across his shoulder. So what you want to do is you want to practice all these different forehands, and depending on the situation you're in, you're going to start to match what is the appropriate follow-through. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed and liked this video. If you do, give this video a like. That really helps me out. And if you don't want to miss my next video, then make sure you subscribe and you hit that notification bell. Really, really appreciate that. This is Pete from Crunch Time Coaching signing off. And hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Comment below. Let me know, who do you think is going to finish with the most Grand Slams? Is it going to be Rafa? So let's this right here. Is it going to be Rafa, or is it going to be Novak? And not only guess who's going to have the most, but how many are they going to end up with? I'm going to predict that Novak's going to have the most, and I think he could get up to as many as 27. That's my prediction. So put your prediction below, and hopefully you enjoyed today's lesson.